Well, hello, and welcome to the Marketing Now book launch mega live stream. I'm David Bain, author of Marketing Now, and your host over the next 8 hours. Yes, 8 hours. How many of you are going to stay for that one? During which I'll be joined by 33 of the world's leading marketers to discuss their favorite tips in Marketing Now, the book, and to provide you with loads and loads and loads of actionable insights. So we are taking the actionable insights from this. I've got the paperback and I've got the hardback here in front of me, and just released, hot off the press, brand new copies of Marketing Now, the book, and so many incredible tips inside there. And of course, if you are joining us live, it is fantastic to have you here. So type into the chat where in the world you're joining us from, and also let us know why you're attending the Marketing Now book launch, what kind of business you're in, what you want to achieve yourself, what kind of marketing challenges you've got maybe as well, what you want to learn today as well. So let us know a little bit about that in the chat, and I'll have a look at that just in a second. But while you do that, I'm just going to be sharing a couple of slides with you just to introduce you to what's going to be happening today. So first of all, we're going to be meeting a gentleman called Ian Anderson Gray. So we're going to be having a lovely discussion about the background to the book itself. Moving on to and now I'm going to go for GMT. I'm going to go for UK times. There are lots of time zones around the world, of course. I've got Eastern Standard Time on there as well. That's 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 2:30 p.m. GMT. We're going to be having the first main session based upon the first part of the book called Technical Success. And joining me for that one will be Dixon Jones, Kevin Indig, Pam Unkst, and Alina Ghost. The next session after that, 3:30 p.m. GMT, Technical Success Workshop. So what we're going to be having is the one session, the initial session for a part of the book, and that session will be focusing in on the advice within the book. And then the second session, which is this workshop that I was talking about for the first part of the book, Technical Success Workshop, is going to be implementing all of the stuff that is in that part of the book. So helping us do that will be Bridget Randolph, Chris Green, John Alderson, and Nick Wilsden. Moving on to the next one, which is at 4:45 p.m. GMT, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. Moving on to part 2 of the book, Creative Success. Joining me for that one will be Amy Woods, Julia Bramble, Phil Palin, and Steve Linney. And the next one at 5:45 GMT, that will be the Creative Success Workshop. So the implementation of part 2 of 3 of the book, giving great example, different websites that I'm going to just show you examples of in a second there. And joining me for that one, Making, Jan Ilunga, Rebecca Radice, and Elisa Meredith. At 7 p.m. GMT, the Promotional Success, the third of 3 parts of the book. The third part is called Promotional Success. We've got AJ Wilcox, Alex Tuchlova, Brad Geddes, and Kirk Williams joining me for that one there. And the workshop in relation to that part of the book will be at 8 p.m. GMT. Aaron Levy, Amy Bishop, Lexi Mills, and Joe Martinez. Finishing us up with a closing launch party with Dennis Yu, Mark Traphagen, Mike King, Paul Lovell, and Virginia Nussey. So a whole lot of people joining me there, a whole lot of great sessions, I'm sure, to come. Got Natasha saying in the chat, nice to see so many new and old faces in the lineup. Good luck, everyone. Kate from Lancashire, a personal travel consultant. I'm a marketer for over a decade, but looking to understand how to apply for my small business. Alina Ghost, she's going to be a guest later on as well. She's saying she's looking forward to this, looking forward to having you on there as well, Alina. Now, I wanted to show you quickly as well the 4 websites that we're going to be deep diving into. One is called Sky Factory. One is called, I'm looking for the brand name here as well. It's Succulents Box. That's it. And this is about this is a bit of a gardener's kind of a specialist plant website. We've then got a specialist children's hospital, and then we've got a digital marketing agency. So those are 4 websites. They're very, very different businesses. What I did was I emailed a few people and asked them if they wanted their websites featured. And I selected the websites that were really quite different. So I wanted an e-commerce type business, a B2B business, B2C business as well. So I think they're really nicely represented in terms of the different types of businesses out there that are going to be chatted about. And that's what we're going to be doing in the workshop sessions. We're going to be deep diving into those businesses and peeling out those actionable insights from the book itself. As Joe was saying, hey everyone, this looks great, and David Kilkelly saying hi, Ian, David, and everyone else. Hello, David. Thank you so much for joining in. It's great to see some people starting to interact and watching live. Please, let us know your thoughts in the chat. Let us know what's happening from your perspective there as well. But let's bring in the gentleman that is the first guest. I'll introduce him briefly by saying Ian Anderson Gray is a man who helps entrepreneurs level up their impact, authority, and profits using the live video confidently. And you can find him over at iag.me. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, David. It's great to be here. Are you feeling tired, or are you ready for your 8-hour marathon?
Can you ask me at 10 p.m.? No, I'm rocking and rolling. I'm ready. I feel as if nothing can go wrong.
Well, it's gone well so far. I'm excited to be here. I'm really honored, actually, to be your first guest on this marathon live show. And yeah, I've got your book here, which I've been reading, and yeah, it's excited to talk about that and loads of other stuff today.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to have you on. Ian's a master of live broadcasting. You've been doing it for a long time, and love your podcast as well. And it's great always to have conversations with you. I think the challenge when we have conversations is to cut them off and actually know that there's a time limit at the end of them. But we do have that, unfortunately. But
well, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? Really, I mean, I'm sure you've had those conversations with people where you're not really sure what to say, and the conversation starts to, and they're a bit embarrassing. So we don't really have that problem.
We don't. No. So I think it'd be great to have a good chat about the whole production of the book, because obviously I didn't just write it. It was a case of doing a massive live stream first of all, and a bit of a blabber to actually get all the content edited and written as well. And I'm sure you've done a lot of those types of things as well. Or are you intending to do something similar at some point in the future yourself?
Well, it's funny. Like a number of people have said to me in the last few months, "When are you writing your next book?" And I just look at people like you, and I know how much goes into it. And so that was actually one of the things I wanted to ask you about and talk to you about, because in one sense, doing a live stream, I mean, you could say, okay, what David has done here is he's done a live stream, he's got loads of experts on, he's basically written down, copied all of what they've said, bunged it in a book, and that's it. But as we all know, it's not that simple. I mean, obviously, there's doing a live stream, you've managed to get so much material from it. But I'd love to know a little bit more about how you came up with the idea, first of all, and then how did you then transition it from that live stream, or those series of live streams, into the book?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first serious live stream, by serious live stream, I mean live stream of over 2 hours long, I did was in December 2015. And that was a bit of a recap at the end of the year. I remember I started taking podcasting seriously in September 2014 it was that I launched Digital Marketing Radio. And obviously I was kind of getting into kind of speed in December 2014, but by the end of 2015 I'd probably interviewed by over 100 people actually, and I had a great collection of guests. And I was thinking, well, it would be very important to actually keep these relationships and not just interview someone once and then forget about it. And I think a wonderful way to do it is to have an end of year recap of the show, the content that people shared, and perhaps get people's up-to-date thoughts on what is relevant in marketing at that present moment in time. So I think I had about 30 people or so on live show at the time, and it was lovely. We were actually chatting a little bit before we went on air about Blab. And Blab was a wonderful platform at the time. I think, as we said, it was probably of its time in that everyone thought live streaming was incredible and jumped on any live stream that happened to be happening. So tended to get incredible engagement. If you had an audience of a couple of hundred, then 100 of them would have turned up and actually watched you live. Nowadays, you probably get a very small percentage of your community that's likely to turn up and watch you live, because there's so much other content out there. So it was great fun to be able to do that. Of course, it was only 2 hours long. I didn't really have any intention to make that one into a book. That wasn't in my thought process. However, I thought, okay, if I do this again, if I do this in December 2016, then maybe I can have double the amount of content, because I will have another year's worth of podcast episodes and another year's worth of guests that have come on my shows. So I did that, and I ended up having over 100 guests come on that one. I had about four and a bit hours of content, and made that content into the book that was called Digital Marketing in 2017. And I guess that gave me the bug.
Yeah, well, I think that the really important thing that comes from all of this is that people think of live video or live streaming as just the live element, don't they? So with Blab or with Crowdcast or with, whatever, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, you do the live and then you press the end broadcast button and then that's it. And people, I think, miss a trick, don't they? In that you can turn this into a piece of evergreen content. You can turn this into, say, a community. You can actually kind of, with the comments on Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live, you can actually create a community of discussion, or you could make it into a blog post or a podcast, which I know you've done a few times. But what I love about what you've done is you've gone that one step further, and you've made it into like an actual piece of a real thing in the real world, a book, and which is really cool. And this is something that will last for a lot longer. And it's great. It's obviously great for brand awareness. So you've taken those relationships that you built over time. And I think that was another really important thing about what you said is you met all these people, you invested in those relationships, but you didn't just leave it there. You kept on with those relationships. And now today you're doing an 8-hour live stream. And how many people have you got on it? You've got all these people over the years, which is really, really cool. So yeah, how did you then create this book now from the live video last year?
Well, I think the lesson that I learned from the production of the first book was that you can have the content created in video form, and then you can get that content transcribed. But then that's not a book. Some people will be lazy and publish just a transcript as a book, but that's not a great user experience, and that does nothing for your brand when you do that. And realistically, you have to rephrase a lot of it, if not everything, and ensure that it's written in a way that people read and really enjoy. I'm sure many people watching, I'm sure yourself, Ian, you've read a transcript, and it's okay, but it's not a great experience. For whatever reason, people speak differently than they write, and people expect to read and to consume the content in a written form the same way that people write, and you absolutely have to do that. So I've taken the written content, had it transcribed, but then rewritten the transcription completely, and obviously also categorized everything as well. When I had people come on the live show, I didn't tell them beforehand to tell me what subject they were going to talk about. I wanted specifically to give them the ability just to share anything they wanted and ask them one simple question. What's one piece of actionable advice that you want to share with the audience right now? And everyone shared the one piece of actionable marketing advice that they thought was particularly appropriate to share. And everyone obviously is focused in on different areas, and then you got to get the content, you get the answers, and but then you have the categorization of everything that, as I mentioned as well. So I categorized everything afterwards, and I thought it really fitted quite nicely into 3 different sections, 12 different chapters, and that makes a really nice book. If you want to aim for a book, you want to try and break it up. You want to try and aim for roughly 60,000 words, which this is about.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, that would have been a really lovely feeling when you realize that you can split it into these 3 sections and you've got these 12 chapters. And I think you're right about, yeah, you can't just do the use a software like otter.ai or even rev.com and just get everything transcribed, then bung it into the book. I mean, you could do that, and I'm sure people do, but I mean,
exactly. I actually used the Rev service, but you're probably talking about roughly 97% accurate, and that's just not good enough at all. And then I went in there and made sure that everything was edited and was correct in terms of the way that people said it to begin with. So things like brand names, domain names tend to be pretty rubbish through a service like Rev. I'm not particularly having a go at Rev. Just any transcription service will tend to struggle with brand names and domain names. So you have to go through and make sure all of those are right to begin with. Got Elizabeth saying hi. Elizabeth here from Swift Polling. Looking forward to this, David. Great to have you here, Elizabeth. If you're liking the content that's being shared, please share this particular URL. It's crowdcast.io/e/marketing now. You can copy and paste the top URL, and if you share it with your friends, that would be much appreciated too as well. But yeah, I mean, you were saying rev.com, and I used them to begin with, but then I had a perfect transcript after I edited it and got those domains corrected, and I used the perfect transcript to upload with segments of the original live stream when I was sharing it on social media, and so there was real value in doing that. But then once the perfect transcript was produced, that's when I went through everything and categorized everything into different advice tip categories, and then found that it probably fitted into about 12 chapters from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've had a similar thing with Rev. I mean, I love Rev. I think it's great for captions and for transcription services, but they can never spell my name. They always spell my surname, which is Gray with an E. And I've even contacted the customer services and I said, how can I get your transcribers to get my name right? And said, oh, just put it in the text file that you upload. And I've tried everything. Doesn't work. They still spell it with an E. So, but it does save time. It's not going to do everything, is it? As you say, you've had to, but you didn't have to transcribe that out yourself, which is what you would have had to do all those years ago. So once you'd got it into those three sections and those 12 chapters, and you'd got rid of some of the content. So, for example, obviously, what tends to happen is people on a live stream, they go off on tangents, which sometimes are great, but you've got to get it into a way that works really well for a book. What was the next stage once you'd done that? You'd put it all together, because I know there's so much more. I'm asking you all of this, of course, not because I'm thinking about writing a book next year, but what's the next stage?
Do you know? Just before I get to that, just one other funny anecdote in relation to transcriptions. One word that I remember people getting wrong every single time was when I talked about pay-per-click marketing. They kept on writing pay-per-clip.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Paperclip. Come on.
It could be a thing. Maybe you should come up with this new form of marketing with the paperclip. It kind of reminds me of The Office. Remember that paperclip that used to kind of knock on the
window? That's absolutely Word. Yes,
Clippy. Yeah, Word. That was it. Yeah. Nostalgia going down. Yeah.
That's okay. Kind of a next stage in relation to the production of the book itself. What I wanted to do was make it really actionable, and so I took different quotes from the book, and I'll just show you a random section if I can here in the book as well. And so that's a quote there from. It's very difficult to get my book in the right place. That's a quote from a chap called Mitch Joel. So every single one of the contributors, so there's 134 contributors, I've got tweets or mini quotes that could be tweets. And I think that's a really nice bite-sized tip. So each tip is nicely split up. There's one from Chris Green there. And as well as being in sections, I think that people can pick it up and read those individual tips, and then put it down and get something just incredibly useful, hopefully for their day-to-day marketing lives straight away from that. So I wanted it to be really nicely structured like that. And the next thing was really the design of the inside of the book. So hopefully you can see that in the camera there as well. So that's the beginning of a chapter there. So obviously I've got the kind of the logo at the top of here and the chapter heading there as well, and the nice in-depth there as well. So that's not the kind of thing that I can do myself. So I used a service called Jet Launch to design the inside of the book, and that's a really great investment. I also used 99 Designs to actually design the cover of the book, and I'm really happy with that. Just subtly in the background, I've got pictures of everyone who took part there as well. I've got a nice quote there. There's quite a lot of text on the page, but I think it's split up quite nicely, so it doesn't look too much. At the back there, I've got some nice testimonials there as well. That's just the paperback. The hard copy there as well. So I've got an extra introduction. You don't have a copy of this, Ian.
I know. I'm feeling very sad. I'm wanting it now.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, so you said something about Jet Launch. I wasn't quite sure. So what do they do? Because it makes sense with 99 Designs for the design of it, and you produced all the text. But what was this missing bit in the middle that I don't quite understand yet?
So Jet Launch actually design the PDF, which becomes your book on the inside. So what you're not doing is you're not using a template on Word. You're actually having your book designed. So of course I wrote my book in Word. I'm a PC man, I'm afraid. And
that's good.
And then once I was happy with the content itself, I passed it over to them for the design, and they come up with all kind of different designs for obviously the kind of praise for marketing now at the beginning of the book. Then I've got the content section. So it really is just a nicely formed book. It's I've self-published it, and there are advantages to self-publishing, but I've also used professional services to produce the design of the book, as well as it was getting the book edited and produced internally as well, and I think that's important.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, so with all of these things, you could do everything absolutely yourself, and I mean, you could even, I suppose, use your printer to print things out, but you'd be completely mad. So you've got a service to do this, and you've given them the Word document, and they've made it beautiful. And then at that point, it then needs to go to presumably to Amazon. And so, I mean, how do you get it into the book format?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different services online that you can use to publish your book yourself. I used a combination between a service called Ingram Spark and KDP, which is now Amazon's way to actually publish books. Now, Amazon don't allow you to publish a hardcover. So if you want a hardcover published, you've got to go through another service like Ingram Spark. But Ingram Spark can publish directly to Amazon. Obviously, Amazon themselves will tend to be a little bit quicker in terms of the fulfillment of your book when someone places an order. So I had a quick look at my listing on Amazon, and it actually said that the hard cover one would be a bit to send. It would take a few days to send, but the paperback would go immediately. And obviously, the Kindle version would go immediately. So I'm having the Kindle and the paperback through Amazon, and then the hardback through Ingram Spark. And then I also contacted Amazon to get all the listings linked together. It's important, obviously, when someone goes on and they see the book brand, that if they choose, they can get the hardcover or paperback or Kindle, and they don't have to go and search again to go and find that.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, it shows you how much goes into these things, but it's still a lot easier than it used to be to create your own book. I mean, you don't have to worry about getting a publisher, for example. You can self-publish, which is great.
I think a lot of people actually choose not to have a publisher now, because I think you're lucky to get 10% of any kind of book revenue. But if you self-publish, then it's for kind of paperback, it could be something like 40%. For Kindle, it can be up to 70%. So there's certainly a big potential financial incentive to self-publish as long as if you do the marketing yourself. But I've been told by a few big kind of people who have published books through publishing deals that a lot of these publishing houses don't do marketing for you anyway, and all they do is they get the book published, so you're still responsible for the marketing of the book. So there's a lot of positives to self-publishing. I may try at some point in the future to get a book deal and be able to compare myself directly, but it's self-publishing is a good option for many people.
I think so. And it's a similar thing in the music field, because I know somebody who's getting some CDs produced. Yes, CDs still exist. And he's a classical musician, and he's actually having to, he does have a recording contract, but he has to pay for everything. He has to pay for the publicity. He has to pay for, so yeah, things have changed a little bit. So I wanted to ask you though, so this live stream that you're doing, because and you came on my podcast and my show to talk about this, about the whole idea of a marathon live stream. And, a lot of people will probably think you're completely mad for doing this, but I wanted to ask you a two-part question really, which is, first of all, why are you doing 8 hours? And second of all, how on earth do you keep going for 8 hours?
Drugs. No. Look, 8 hours feels about the right time to delve into enough detail about the content in the book, because there's a lot of tips, kind of content in there as well. So I'd like to get a lot of people's opinion. I'd like to involve many of the contributors from the book. So I said there was 134 people in the book. There's 33 people, many of them from the book, that are joining me for this live stream series. It's great to involve people with that as well. And it's just it's a crazy thing to do. It's I think you've got to position yourself slightly differently from a content perspective than other people, and to a certain degree, this is just something different to do. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, because I mean, it's still amazing how many people, how many businesses are not utilizing live streaming, but it is not as unusual as it once was, and so you're differentiating yourself. So the other thing is when you've got so many guests, because I mean, obviously in this half hour, you just got me. So hopefully that's not too difficult to, well, I don't know, matter of opinion whether having me as your first guest is going to be a good thing or not. But after this, you've got 4 per half hour. How do you plan to have so many guests? Because obviously you've got to get everyone on those particular times. Have you got any tips on that? Well,
it's about 4 per hour. So it goes into longer sessions after this one. It's I think involving lots of people. You have to give them as much direction as you can with regards to how to join, what equipment to use, how to use that equipment, how the session's been structured. Because obviously, once you go live, you can't really do too much in terms of helping people come on, or if they're having technical challenges. So you have to give as much direction as you can beforehand. You have to invite people on who you are relatively confident, or that are going to come on with a decent internet connection and a reasonable microphone and sound okay, as well as knowing what they're talking about as well. But it's part of the fun of doing it live. You just never know quite what's going to happen.
You sound like a masochist, but yeah, I suppose you also need to plan for when things are going to go wrong. So I think we talked about this, but if your internet goes down, what is your backup plan? So a lot of us have these things, and you can use like a hotspot. I mean, I suppose have you got any backup plans in place if things go wrong?
I do have an option to tether from my phone if necessary. It's not plugged into my computer directly, so it would have to be a couple of minutes fix. But you have to have that in the back of your mind if you're doing a mega live stream. What would happen if X fails? And it's good to go through the different scenarios. I think the challenge is, when you're doing it for the first few times, you can't actually think of the different potential scenarios that could happen, and you kind of have to just experience it to actually check that on the list and think, if this happens again, I know how I'm going to deal with it. So you kind of have it in the back of your mind after dealing with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've all had those terrifying times when things go wrong. But actually, as you again said to me before, if things go wrong, people are usually very patient, and they'll keep with you, which is great. And also using a system like Crowdcast. I mean, Crowdcast is pretty robust, and it's not like Facebook Live, which can be a little bit buggy sometimes. So
Yeah,
that's always a good thing.
exactly. But it's all a learning curve. So we've just about come to the end of this particular session, and it was wonderful having you on, Ian. I really appreciate it. Can you just remind the viewers where they can get hold of you if they would like to do so?
Yeah, well, please do get in touch. My website is iag.me, so find me there. My podcast is the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. So wherever you go to find podcasts, you can search for that. And probably Twitter is my social network of choice. You can find me just iag.me. That's iagdotme.
Superb stuff. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We're going to be just taking a break for 2 minutes, just so I can go into the green room and go get the other guests, then come back. Now, from a viewing perspective, just stay exactly where you are. The screen should go blank for a couple of minutes, then we should come back on. So don't go anywhere at all, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Thanks again, Ian.
Thanks, David. Bye.